Good evening, everybody. Danielle, I'm your host for my channel Hope Arising, and this is David Devine. And
Good evening. Yeah,
good
sorry.
evening.
Whoops.
You're good. We are here for part two. If you weren't here for part one, you missed a very good interview where David talked all about his band time with multiple different bands and traveling around the world. And we ended about 2014. And I wanted to go back a little bit. We talked
Okay.
about your professional life. Let's talk about your personal life
Okay.
before 2014.
Okay.
You had talked about moving to Vegas,
Hmm.
and your daughter was born out there, and then you moved back to Ohio. What else
Right.
happened during that time? Like marriage, obviously, and what else happened?
Yeah. I got married in there in 2006. Yep. Same year that my daughter was born. Earlier that year. So yeah, at the Rio, which they don't do them anymore. And the preacher was wild. He had just married Danny Bonaducci or something. I had just seen him on. It was somebody. I think it was him, and it was somebody. Well, I had just seen him on like one of the inside editions or hard copies or something, like screaming at whoever's wedding that was, and then here, boom, he shows up at mine screaming. So that was pretty wild. And they had the reception at the top. They have like a bar with an open balcony, couple steps, and a lot of family and friends came out, so it was a good
Mhm.
time. It was nice, yeah. And we were living in a crappy apartment at the time, and then of course getting ready for my daughter to be born. We
Mhm.
moved into a pretty nice house. Everything in Vegas looks nice because it's relatively new. I mean, obviously there are older sections with older houses, but this was a new, relatively new development that I think the owner had never seen the house. He just bought it and rented it maybe to one other people, and we got it. And I really loved it. But again, everything looks pretty nice in Vegas. So yeah,
Mhm.
so if you're looking at property in Vegas, make sure you check it out at night also, because it's a little bit deceiving. But yeah, so we were out there, and like I said, we were there quite a few months. Well, a few months before she was born, and then, like I said, it took about a year process to move out of there.
Mhm.
And so, most of the the baby gifts were cards to Babies or Us or whatever. And so when I couldn't sleep, I'd show up there when they opened right at 8 or 9 in the morning with all these gift cards to buy things. And I would always get kind of weird looks, like, who's this dude, waiting at Babies R Us. So yeah, we process of putting together cribs and strollers and blah blah blah. And yeah, so we did that. We made the most of that year. People came, quite a few people came out to visit.
Mhm.
One being my mom. We went all over. Uh, we went to the Hoover Dam and different things, and so it was pretty cool and nice, and just learning to be a parent. And I had a couple. Actually, I had a couple friends that were crucial in helping me, that I met through the music world. And my one buddy, he had one a few years older, and one just born her age as well. So
Mhm.
he gave me some pointers too. So we were like two Mr. Moms. And then my buddy Charlie, that I mentioned in the last show, he sent me a book from LA called The Happiest Baby on the Block,
Mhm.
which went, I think it was like a Dr. Phil guest or something, and it went step by step about the
Mhm.
S's, the shushing, the swaddling, the all this. And I'm telling you, it worked. I mean, it was amazing. This book that, of all people, Charlie sent me.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, it was just that process of learning how to do that, and then
Mhm.
juggle. She would come home, hand me the keys, and then I would go to work. And it was like that, pretty much 7 days a week.
Oh wow.
So it was overwhelming, but also nice too. It was nice was a two, you know, it was nice to not have everybody influence you kind of and just learn on your own. But then that was also the really super scary part about it, because they, you know, the lady put the car seat in the car and said, "See ya," you know, and it's like, wow, you know, what do I do?
Wow.
And she was born early. She was real small.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was just trying not to break her, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
How did you and your wife meet?
At Enough's Enough show, uh, my, if you guys know that band, of course, um, my friend was having a party,
Hmm.
and they were having Enough's Enough in the basement. They were playing at Cleveland at the time. And oddly enough, if you give a band, if they have an off day and you give them the right amount of money, they'll show up. So they were playing in the basement for like 10 of us.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's how I met her. Of course, I knew them. That's why I went. I had played with them many times, and the people that own the house,
Hmm.
they were big fans of theirs. So, and you know, it was a handful of us there. It was a really cool time. Yeah,
So she's also from Ohio.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys moved out to LA, or not LA, Las Vegas,
Mm-mm.
and then your daughter was born, and then it took about a year afterwards to come back.
Right.
What was those decisions like? Like, was it just to be closer to family, or what other influences
Yeah,
influenced you to come back?
that was well. The one thing was where we put her bedroom. Like I said, make sure you check out these properties at night, because the people that were, most of the neighbors are great, but the people that were across the street, it was what they worked in a casino, the husband and wife, but they had kids of all ages. I mean, they had them grown, 30s, 20s, teen, and when these when the parents were gone at night, the garage door opened, and they had a pool table and a bar, and it was like serious party, like hundreds of people every night. And so, you know, what I mean, they were really loud, but like I think, I don't know if I mentioned the last time I had problems. Like if I would leave my garage door open, neighbors were
Mhm.
stealing stuff out. And, and like I said, before she was born, it was, you know, things to deal with, whatever, but it just was constant. And I just wanted to get her out of that situation and back to the Midwest, where things were a little bit slower, and also family. Yeah, because like I mentioned, we were handing the keys off,
Mhm.
and so it was super hard to do anything together. And also, you know, I wanted to know our grandparents or cousins. You know,
Mhm.
I that all of a sudden became the most important thing to me. Um,
Right.
and you know, I think it was a great experience. Yeah, I think it was a great decision. Number one, because you know, when we first came back, like the first many years we spent, my grandma was still alive, and so we
Mhm.
spent almost every day, me, my grandma, and my daughter, either checking on my grandma or going to eat or going to the store or whatever. You know,
Mhm.
it was just it was incredible uh, time. So yeah, I knew that was the right decision, both for us and just getting out and doing things, and also for my grandma at the time, who had just recently at that time uh, started living by herself too. So it just gave everybody, you know, we just were together all the time, and so it was a really good decision.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happened after 2014, like professionally and personally?
To but I continued to work at the place I was working, like with that
Mhm.
we mentioned last time. Also playing in a couple bands here, um, and really uh, just enjoying life. I mean, it was a little bit slower, and I got really comfortable here. And I mean, exciting things like gardening, uh, all this stuff, but just really enjoying life. It was a really neat time. As she was growing to discover the first time seeing a rabbit was exciting, all those kind of
Aw.
first. But yeah, I mean, you get to rediscover life through, uh, your kid's eyes. So it's things that you would normally walk by and never notice again. They find like it's, New Year's Eve or super excited about everything. When we first came back here, she never had really seen grass before. So, it's like she was
Oh, wow.
scared of grass, didn't want to be set down in the grass, like the way it felt on her feet. So, I mean, it was just all kind of things like that. So it was just doing that. Again, playing, writing and working and just generally enjoying life basically. Um, and, uh, and, uh, yeah, things were going pretty fantastic. And it was about that time that I was thinking about what we might talk about tonight, because um, there was like a chunk of time where things got put on hold, and I really couldn't
Mhm.
picture it. And I knew one of them was what we all experienced in 2000. But leading up to that for me was then at that time was when my mom got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And I think that we spent a lot of time going through all the different processes and decisions that go along with that.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, as I was thinking about that missing time, that was the missing time, which I don't consider it missing time. Things I didn't do. My head was really there with her. So again, like
Mhm.
I said, we were spending a lot of time with my grandma, but also my mom too was I mean, she really did a lot for us. So yeah, it was shortly after that period, 2015, she got diagnosed with that. And so that really was something that we all focused energy on what she needed at the time,
Right.
you know. Uh which was what courses she might take. I was begging her to retire because
Mhm.
she never retired.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, she really didn't. I mean, at the last whatever, several months or whatever, it became impossible to go. But even before that, she was going once a week or whatever. But I was telling her, yeah, to do whatever you want. Do
Mhm.
literally at this point, uh, do whatever do. Focus on doing what you want to do. But obviously, she liked going to work.
What kind of
I
cancer
know
did she have?
she she had it all over. It touched every organ.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Um, it's pretty sad. They they drained. I think it like a 2 liter or couple 2 liters of fluid out. And that's the hard thing about cancers, because when she came out, I think she felt better. Imagine carrying all that fluid in there.
Mhm.
And then we went to eat, and I think she was just trying, just like when you're sick or you're hoping for the best. I could tell we went out to eat, and she's trying to eat just to to maybe get some hope that um, that was it. But
Right.
it wasn't it. And so when they did surgery to take it out of whatever spot at first. Well, we went, and the surgery took forever, which I didn't deem as a great sign.
Mhm. Right.
And then whenever it ended and we got to go in, and the doctor explained that it wasn't just that area, it was literally touching every organ. So he went in and cut out as much as he could, but
Mhm.
it was touching everywhere. So um although it helped, um it definitely didn't uh you know, wasn't able to remove it, and then that was the problem. So so after that, then she had to plan out the next course on how to deal with what was left in there, and then we took it from there. Yeah.
And when did she end up passing?
In 2017.
Oh wow.
So they put her in hospice right after that, which,
Mhm.
and we were talking about first times. These are first times for me. Hospice. I never really understood what hospice was. I mean, you know, I thought I did, but obviously you learn a lot more.
Mhm.
My grandma was in it, and then a couple years later, then my mom, and she did it at home. And actually, so once you sign into the hospice at home care, you no longer call the hospital or an ambulance. You call hospice, and they deal with it how they do.
Mhm.
Well, she was improving, so they were literally going to kick her out of hospice because you have. I mean, I think from what I remember with her experience, I don't know if it's like that with everybody, but I think you have to show, at least with the in-home, the way she did it, you have to show some sort of decline, and she
Okay.
wasn't doing that. So they were going to make her go do something else. Cause she wasn't getting sicker.
Mhm.
It wasn't spreading really. And, but one day she had someone come out. She did have a port, and
Mhm.
whatever goes on with the ports. And the lady couldn't figure it out. The hospital. So my mom had
Mhm.
to go into the hospital to have that worked out.
Oh
And
wow.
so when she did, she bumped into her uh, chemo doctor that she was using
Mhm.
prior to all this. And I never really gave my 2 cents about it, but I have to say, I'm not a huge chemo guy. I really would exhaust every avenue, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Because so she ran into, the lady said, well, we have this new chemo experimental, whatever. My mom wanted to do it, and you know, so she would do it like on a Friday or whatever it was, and then it would just shut her down for 4 days straight. I mean, it was just wiped her out. But so ultimately, um, in my opinion, that that just affected her kidneys so bad. So,
Mhm.
she passed away in 2017. But yeah, so that was rough. We, but that was her decision. And I mean, when it's life and death, when you're in a life and death situation,
Mhm.
others around you can give their advice. I try to um, talk her into different things, and she did try several different things, but ultimately the person has to make their own choice of what they feel like their best chances are going to be to
Mhm.
improve. Um, you know, uh,
Right.
but it's, yeah, who knows? But it still was. She was too young, definitely. But yeah, so 2017, yeah. So yeah, so there was that chunk, that block of time. Yeah.
How old was she when she passed?
68.
Oh
Hmm.
wow.
Hmm.
That is
Yeah,
way too
very young. Uh, yeah, it's too young. We went through it a couple years before that
young.
with my grandma, but my grandma was 89. And if you live 89, that's that's a nice, good long life. And she never went to the hospital. She never had any problems before that. So, um, other than, when she was younger, she would drink and break her ankle or whatever, but that was her own fault. But, so yeah, my mom, she was young. Yeah, she was definitely young. And it's really, it's brutal to watch someone go through those processes when you, um, can't, do something, or the quality of life is missing.
Mhm.
I mean, when old people say, you have your health, it's the truth. I mean, it sounds, ridiculous when you're young, right? Oh, what do you mean? But it is really, I mean, the first step, because if you have those challenges, you start off the day with a million challenges.
Mhm.
It's hard to watch somebody navigate those challenges, that you
Right.
love. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what was going on with you professionally then?
Well, at that time, not a lot. I mean, I was playing with some bands here,
Mhm.
in Cleveland, but yeah, I was really just kind of focused on that. Um, Again, yeah, playing with them, working that job, but yeah, that was really my main concern. And then, and then after that, I had all kind of holes that I felt I needed to fill in my
Right.
personal life, that I really stayed focused on. One of the things, what my daughter's favorite thing to do was to swim, right? So we went to my mom's condo and swam every day in the summer. And of
Mhm.
course, then when she passed, that was missing. And so, that's when I built a pool here so we could try to take some of the sting away.
Mhm.
But so those are the really things I was doing. I was playing locally here and there, but nothing out of town or even that exciting, to be honest. Yeah.
So then 2020 comes around and we all know what happens there. Uh,
Hmm.
so how
Yeah.
did that how did that change your life?
Oh, uh, it was. I mean, I. That's when I first started to go on the internet. My friend I became friends with Video Matt, and we would go on, I don't know, nightly or a few times a week, and that's when I started to go on camera on YouTube.
Mhm.
And just, I mean, I I've been I've had my eye on things, my whole life. We know, listen to conspiracy theorists on Art Bell my whole life. We have to and from shows, 2 in the morning listening, and so I had my pulse on it. But it just infuriated me, uh, how this. I'll get to how it affected me, but how people caved. And I'm not saying that if you have fear or loved one, but the thing that I experienced, like at my daughter's school, just infuriated me.
Mhm.
And I kept it cool. Like if it had happened in my 20s, I would have just been deranged, derailed, But because I didn't want to embarrass her, and I was older, and I know that, you know, overreacting sometimes doesn't get things done. And I know people were scared, but the way they were talking to children, uh, I, I was just overwhelmed and dumbfounded that adults all of a sudden started to have permission and, in my opinion, abuse children the way they talked and treated them. And
Mhm.
I don't know how deep I'll get into it, but I'll start with, they were just yelling, telling them that they were going to, give it to everybody if they didn't have the thing on, even though they were 100 feet from the school, yelling. I mean, I witnessed yelling. And like I said, out of respect, or not, I didn't want to embarrass my daughter, I didn't get out of the car many times. But I did tell her, if you ever, uh, uh, if you ever get so uncomfortable you can't take it, and you need to tell them to go F themselves, do that, and I'll pick you up in the office. No problem whatsoever at all. But at the same time, my where I worked overreacted, and it just was flat out. They had extra rules.
Right.
So I at first I was able to go there when they were closed on Wednesday. They let me do that. So Now I could only work 1 day a week. Then they did away with that. So it affected me drastically. It took my livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
It put my daughter in a bad mental place, because and that was one of my major concerns with the whole thing, is if you are an old person, that this is your last days on earth, and this is this is the stuff you have to see humanity doing. Or if you're a kid that gets ripped off, they had dances, graduations, social things. They were 2 years, at home. It just destroyed children.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it broke my heart and made me absolutely angry. And another way it affected me was that a lot of people got eliminated out of my life, at least temporarily, because I would not agree with them. Right. I don't believe the way to solve a solution is to make it 100 times worse. And that's what they were doing.
Right.
And it just, I went 2 years out without talking to my dad. I mean, I put up with him. I just, again, kept my mouth shut. But then one day when he told me he was ashamed of my decisions, I just snapped and I said, that's it, buddy, out of here. Because those people wanted to express their opinion, but they didn't want to hear your opinion. Not at all. So yeah, it affected just every aspect of life. And that's when I started going online on Video Matt's channel. And that's where we made all kind of predictions, and they were easy to make if you were following along at all.
Right.
And so that's where I started. In fact, I still catch his lives, even though he lives in Italy now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But so I still a mod, and yeah, his channel's grown big time. But yeah, so yeah, it affected me, but I went on every night and screamed about it on his channel, or at least complained.
So what made the decision for you to start streaming?
Well, it was and at that time too, shortly after, maybe a year later, that we talked in Discord. Everybody talked in Discord, and we have these great conversations, and it was awesome because these were conversations that you couldn't have in the street, because everybody had gone insane. Everybody had gone insane. And so in Discord, we would have these great conversations, and they would get heated, and there was so much to talk about every night because, I mean, you guys know, I mean, every topic, and a lot of streamers and stuff. So I really wanted to take those topics from Discord and just stream them live. That was my whole idea. And unfortunately, all those topics that we were discussing and having those great conversations back and forth, then all of a sudden became illegal to talk about. So that's when we started just kind of staring at each other and tiptoeing, and we had fun. But yeah, my main intention was to address all these issues that we had to deal with and live with. But you guys all know that all of that was silenced.
Right.
Yeah, that was all silenced. In fact, Video Matt lost his channel. This channel he's got now is a new channel because he refused to stop talking about it, and they kept taking it down. And finally, it's gone. So he's got this new one, which is better, because we did a show called Off Topic, because he would bring up a subject, and then no one would talk about that subject. We would talk about everything else except that subject. And so that's what his new channel is called, Off Topic, from that. But but that's kind of what I wanted to do too, just from those Discord conversations. And just because I've always been in love with radio and talk shows, and I just wanted to do that on YouTube. But unfortunately, immediately, all the good subject matter you couldn't talk about. You couldn't talk about any of it.
Right.
Well, you could, but you couldn't talk about it safely.
Right.
And so and then and then I was never a big fan of the code words. I
Mhm.
just I felt like, wow, we're really being forced into kindergarten or to grade school, and unfortunately,
Right.
but yeah, Eddie's same. But yeah, so I mean, that was really what I wanted to do. Just, openly and honestly talk to people. That's it, with their
Right.
opinions. But then all those opinions became outlawed. Yeah. And so did the
So
truth. The
true.
truth became, yeah.
So what does the future look like for you now, David? Like what are your plans?
Well, yeah, I have a lot going on now. As always, I've been into movies.
Hmm.
Way super, obsessively, maybe way into too much into movies. So that's so I have the new show or format idea that I want to do with the videos, because I've been collecting all these movies and studying them. You kind of know how I do things as far as the depth.
Hmm.
So that's going to be called Severely Cinematic, and I need to get consistent. I've done like two, but obviously I want to do at least a few a week with that Severely Cinematic, where break down different filmmakers and films and just have fun with that. But I hate to stick. I'm gonna do that, but I can't just stick to just that one subject, right? So I have to come up with a way where I can at least maybe once a week just stream talking.
Hmm.
That's what I really like to do. So maybe have a couple topics or whatever. But so those two things, and then also I've been developing characters and making stop animation puppets and scenes, and so uh, I I've been doing it slowly. I've been building the puppets, making the clothes, making the 3D scenes,
Oh wow.
practicing videoing them, and so probably I'll have more time, hopefully in the winter,
Hmm.
uh, when the yard work isn't there or it's not nice. I feel bad sometimes being down here when it's nice. I feel like I need to take advantage of every sunny day that we have here in Northeast Ohio. But so yeah, I'm going to do that. The the whole the topic with that with the stop animation is Colonel uh, Baudelaire, which means small dagger in French,
Oh.
and I think I've developed and made at least halfway now, approximately 10 characters. And so, yeah, I'm writing all their backstory and his whole purpose. I know it's kind of like he's going to assemble like a freak show,
Okay.
of outcast people. And I'm using some famous um, characters, like the first science fiction film had a moon with a bullet in the eye. I don't know if you ever
Hmm.
seen that.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm developing a character from that, and like the green devil French liquor guy, from the posters, the French
Hmm.
liqueur. So he's one of the characters. I think those are the only two that I kind of borrowed from history because I always loved those, and so I want to incorporate those at least even as back characters or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but because I don't want those, I kind of want them to live on through this and just having fun with it. But writing just this tale involving a little bit of time travel, but like, old school Europe, um, and Baudelaire's kind of assembling these freak shows that kind of appear um, as he's walking down these cobblestone streets in France or Spain in the middle of the night. And you know, Plan 9 from Outer Space, Ed Wood filmed Bella Lugosi for the last time, and he kind of walks out and picks a rose, really for no reason in the movie, and then he drops it and walks away. That's I'm kind of going to give a nod to how this is going to start to picking the rose for his wife who had passed, and just as a nod to Bella Lugosi and Ed Wood.
Hmm.
But so I'm super excited trying to create this and build this, and And then, of course, I want to do some streaming out of the house too, which is I have two things planned, which are cool. Full Moon Features is on this Saturday, which
Okay.
they bought. It's called Church of Chills, and they used to do road shows. They're famous for the Puppet Master movies, all kind of thing. If you look up Full Moon Features and Charles Band, huge fan. I've been a huge fan since I was like 16. So he bought this church in Cleveland because they already have a house where they filmed 8 movies this year. And then now they bought this church where they're setting up sets, and he just filmed a vampire movie there. So he's going to film a lot more here, and he's in love because we have a lot of Gothic looking buildings in this area. So that church included, it's a 130-year-old church. So Saturday, Church of Chills, he's doing a road show where he's bringing in the cast. He's doing a screening of that movie, which is called Death Streamer. Giveaways. He's filming that for a documentary that he's making. He's also live streaming it on somewhere, churchofchills.com. You could check out all the information. But I'm super excited. So I want, I can't wait to meet him and tell him at any capacity, I would love to help and be involved in making films. Whenever he films in Cleveland, if I'm bringing him lunch or making puppets or writing. So, so I'll be hitting on him on Saturday. And then, so I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Absolutely, Eddie. Yeah. It's out on 4K now. and then next Wednesday is they're doing a screening of Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I want to film, but also Columbia, from the movie Little Nell Campbell. She's going to be there. So I can't wait to go meet her. So that's, quite a few people in a 1 week's time. That is kind of like a dream for me, because I've been a fan of that movie since I can remember. And so it's going to be exciting to meet Little Nell.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But, and just hourly, like when we went to film at the church, stuff like that, great architecture or whatever, doing stuff out, and hopefully maybe get out to do other, movie locations, Christmas movie locations as we get closer to Christmas. So there's all that. And then there's music too. So I've been rehearsing with Priscilla. There's a show in December. And so there's that too. So there's all that.
That's a lot.
If that's not enough, I'm sure I'm leaving some stuff out. Yeah.
Well, we do have some questions that people have written in. I do have one from last week that I said I was going to write down, and I did write down. I took notes, that's important.
Yeah. I'm a note taker myself. Yeah.
Yep. So the question from last week was, what 70s song was your favorite song of yours, and what wasn't your favorite? Sorry, what was your favorite song, and what was your favorite song to play? There we go.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be awesome, Eddie. We'll have to talk about that. That's awesome. 4K cameras. So what was the favorite? And it has to be 70s song. And,
that was the 70s song of yours. And what was your favorite song to play, like in general, of the 70s?
Rob Zombie has a movie called House of a Thousand Corpses. I think that was part 2 or Devil's Rejects. It was Devil's Rejects. It was the second. It was the sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses. And on that soundtrack, it's basically like the movie revolves around like the white trash or whatever family that. But anyway, he put the soundtrack out, and that soundtrack, he got the rights and put all these 70s songs, but it's I think Slow Ride's on it. So there would be one. Slow Ride. I think is that Foghat? So that would be a 170 song but the whole soundtrack is perfect. if you like the 70s and have not heard that soundtrack, well, I'm sure if you like the 70s, you've heard all the music, but the way he put them together back to back is just incredible. And then to play 70s song to play.
Yeah, 70s song to play.
Well, she's I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I do know. Yeah, because we've done it recently. We did it last year. I think it's in the set this year for December. Is No More Mr. Nice Guy by Alice Cooper. It's got some. It starts off in A, I think, but it's got some really great changes, and it's a really fun, great song to play. It sounds really technical, but it's not. It's just fun. Yeah. Yeah. So No More Mr. Nice Guy.
No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah. Great song to play. Yeah. Really great changes.
Another question for you is, this is from Mike. He asks, what was your favorite memory of you and your grandma?
Oh, yeah, that's easy. Yeah. She would take me camping. She had a trailer, and she had my hero growing up was her brother, my Uncle Bob, right? So he got a trailer, and so they bought one in the same park like a year later, 2 years later, and she would take us camping. Well, of course, they ended up loving it, so my grandparents bought a new trailer and put it a few doors down from my Uncle Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how, I was just starting to be a teenager at that time or whatever, but she would take me, I would go every weekend from that point till it got to be, maybe uncool, like when you're 18 or whatever, or life. I just got whatever. But anyway, every weekend I would spend camping with her, my grandfather, and every weekend. And then if in the summertime I could call her, because at the campground, if anybody's camping or camping people, everybody's out there every weekend. So you develop like this family with people. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's people I met there that I still see that, I consider them family. It's really crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And just have popped back and forth in each other's lives all through mm-hmm. life, that I feel like, those people were the most important people of my life, just because of growing up and everything you go through, that there was stability there with those folks. And, but yeah, I could call her up in the summer and say, Grandma, let's go out to, the campground for 2 weeks, because my friend or maybe my girlfriend at the time I knew was going to be there, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, within an hour, she was picking me up, and we were out there for 2 weeks. And that was it. It was sitting around campfires. They had a game room. Mm-hmm. But it was just hanging out with people. It was a blast. And she was a blast. Like I said, her brother was just, he was my hero. And so it's great being around him and the people out there. But yeah, definitely camping. There's no doubt. I mean, that was just an incredible. Maybe the most important part. Well, no, of course, my daughter. But I'm saying before that. That might have been the most important period of my life. It was great. Yeah.
Where did you guys go camping?
In a just south of Lodi.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just south of Lodi. I think it's still there. I threatened to go back and see it, But I might, maybe next summer I will. I haven't. I would love, because you can go. You can still, I think, temporarily camp there in tents or a trailer or whatever. and then of course, just in the last couple months, I was gifted a broken down golf cart that I restored. So maybe I can take that out there and drive around, because they had trails. I mean, this time of year is so fun out there too, because they would have like a haunted trail ride back through the woods.
wow.
I mean, just incredible. But yeah, just south of Lodi.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And PB was asking, was your grandma an influence on your having an interest in music?
Not well. I mean, she had a piano, and she oddly enough, I don't know if I said this or not, but oddly enough, she had a really great 8-track collection.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, like Foghat, Bachman Turner Overdrive. I can't recall her ever playing any of the music, but like in her console, floor model television or stereo, she had an 8-track. I can't remember her ever putting them in, but that was one of my fascinations. She had this big spinner, slots, and you could spin it, more slots and slots and slots, and of 8-tracks, just all these 8-tracks that were phenomenal, that I would play all the time. Yeah, I would definitely play all the time. And that probably did have some influence, because I was fascinated with that. I was really fascinated with that at her house.
That's really cool. Country Girl asked, if you were not doing music, let me just read exactly what she wrote. What would he be doing if music wasn't in his soul, like hobby wise?
Yeah, so definitely movies. Even more probably than music. And then I did, because I did start going to school at some point, and there I left out, or just didn't matter. I started to go to school for filmmaking. I really wanted to do documentary films and other things. That, since I can remember, I've been infatuated with cameras. And at some point, like in the last 10 years, I mentioned that I was re-obsessed with it again.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Kodak mansion in New York, and I mentioned that I love cameras, and it was wild, because no one ever threw their cameras or their parents' cameras away or their grandparents' cameras away. And my great grandfather was a photographer, so I had his cameras, and I must have now, because everybody gave them to me. No one threw them away. They gave me all their anything to do with cameras, movie cameras, old. I mean, I think the oldest one I have is from 1903.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I must have 100 of those that people gave me. But so I've always, I was always into video taping things. I rarely went to a party or anything through my 20s that I wasn't taping, I remember, I'd go to bars taping, and people would say, what are you on vacation? And that's, and now everybody's videotaping constantly, but but when you're doing it, you're the only one. But yeah, definitely something with movies or film, which I'm going to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just been always fascinated with film, television. Even when I was real young, I used to use tape TV shows and movies on cassette, so I could just listen to them whenever I wanted. I just I've always been fascinated on how you can frame things up and make it look with the cameras. Mm-hmm.
Did you go to Cleveland when they were filming Superman up there earlier this year? Then
no, my buddy did. I probably should. I regret that I didn't go. I don't know. Sometimes I get these thoughts in my head. Like, I don't know why I listen to myself sometimes, because I don't know. I just, I think it's the punk, all the punk rock years when I played punk rock all those years that you just like against it, oh, it's a big major studio, I'm against it. And then, but my buddy did, and he took a bunch of pictures, but now I regret it. I wish I got to stop doing that. But, yeah, no, I didn't go, but it was pretty wild. Right by the, whatever street they turned that into Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a lot of great photos. Yeah, no, I wish I did, but I didn't. No. But of course, just like everything else, Superman is from Cleveland. That's why they did that.
It's true.
Yeah.
Everything
Superman
happens in Ohio.
Yeah. Superman's from Cleveland, and that's why they did that. I don't know. I think the other reason I didn't go is I don't know. I've just read that they're doing some changing up Superman, or making him politically correct, or whatever's going on. I hate when that I hate when you rewrite history, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So God Rides a Harley asked, what is your fondest or wildest backstage memory? I think we need to hear both.
Fondest or wildest backstage memory?
Mm-hmm.
Fondest or wildest? There's a lot of them. Fondest, maybe in fondest, we'll start with fondest. Maybe in Japan, there was a band that was famous. I think it was called Sheena and the Rockets. They were a Japanese band, and Sheena was like famous for being like the Japanese Ramones, and she came, which was wild in itself, because she, like I said, she was pretty famous in Japan, and backstage she gave me a really long talk, and there was obviously it took longer than it probably should have or needed to, because there was a language difference, and she knew very, very little English, and I know like one word in Japan, so or Japanese. But she was very complimentary and gave me a lot of really great advice, and that meant a lot to me. I mean, because it did help with that whole tour. There were a lot of wild things going on, and the wildest one was probably in Greece. We had this huge outdoor backstage area with like a lot of common grounds. There were a lot of bands playing. Some of them were the Offspring, Judas Priest, Dropkick Murphys, Patti Smith, and it was back behind. It was, there was all these common grounds, and every band got their own cabin, and that commissary, and that was wild. It was just out of hand. I don't even know where to start, because it was just free everything for a 3-day festival, where we played on day one, and so now you just have 2 days off to go backstage in that backstage area, and then you could walk up onto the one stage where all the main people were playing from the backstage area. So I got to see Patti Smith on the stage, and her son, her son was playing bass, and we hooked up at the hotel drinking together, and MC5, I think his dad was in a Detroit bass band, so we were drinking at the hotel, and they were coming over to shows that night, and most of the bands were awesome, and it was wild in that, it was just 2 days straight of just drinking. This other band from Sweden, I think, that was famous. They in Sweden, they were a metal band. I think they're famous everywhere. I just wasn't into it. I learned about it from there. But then you go back to the hotel at night, and they're sitting out on the patio, and there's some more drinking. It was just whatever everything happened. I mean, I don't even know where to start. but it was just two great days, and
Wow.
you know, it, it was just unreal. Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. I mean, it was not just me; it was everybody. It was wild, especially the ones that didn't have to play for the next 2 days. But
I'm
but
sure.
and then because we had a driver and he had a shuttle bus, they had all these shuttle buses going back from the hotel, and I rode with the guy in the shuttle so much that one of those days he came to me and he's like, "Oh, I want to show you Greece." So in one of those shuttle buses, instead of doing his job, he took me like into Athens and just drove me around for half the day. And he got
So you were
fired.
like kidnapped almost.
Yeah, but he was telling me all these great mythology stories, and we stopped at his place and smoked, and he was telling me all these mythology stories and showing me where the forest where that happened and the sea where that happened. And I was like freaked out and fascinated. And he was stopping at the bazaar to buy bags. And when he took me back, he got fired because we were gone for hours,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he got fired. And but we talked to his boss into and just blamed it on me. We just said David kidnapped him, like I made. And so we did give him his job back, and he still emails me. That guy still emails
Oh,
me from
wow.
time to time. Yeah, he lives in England now.
That's
Mm.
really cool.
But that weekend was just wild. It was just crazy. It was just off the hook, and just really incredible things. Yeah.
So
I
what
don't know
was
if
your
that was
most
wild enough story for you, but that was wild.
that is pretty wild.
Trust me, it was wild.
So what was your most memorable?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think just even right there, like I said, going up on the stage and watching Patti Smith. So I've always been
Mhm.
huge Patti Smith fan. She sang Because the Night, right? She's writes poetry and books and everything else. I've always been a huge fan. And again, like I said, I accidentally met her son, and he was like, "Come on over." Oh, I didn't even know it was Patti Smith's son till
Mhm.
later after we had been drinking together. But anyway, so they allowed me to stand up on stage, and I mean, she was playing for like 60,000 people,
Oh, wow.
and I got to stand right there. And this night they were incredible, and they did, and the crowd's reaction and them. It was one of those nights that you could almost see the energy and feel the music. Uh, there's really not a lot of words, but they did.
Mhm.
They did. In fact, she's put it on one of her albums since then. They did like "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and it sounded incredible. If it had just been that, but then in the middle they broke down, playing softly, and she wrote this poem that she put in it. You can
Mhm.
find it on YouTube or whatever. And it was just incredible. Whatever words she was saying, whatever mood I was in, or whatever influence, it was just incredible. Like I said, you could feel the energy, and yeah, that was definitely really memorable. And maybe that same night or that same weekend, there was a Spanish band called Manichow.
Mhm.
Same stage, same situation, and they basically played Bob Marley type reggae, but in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
And in Spain and other places in Europe, they're super famous.
Mhm.
And so again, huge crowd, and peace, love, and whatever in this crowd. It was again, same thing. You could just feel the energy, and I'm able to see it from that vantage point. It was just lucky to get to see something like that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what was the most memorable non-musical memory?
Non-musical.
It could be attached to touring, but it's not a musical memory.
A non-musical memory.
Mhm.
Most memorable. Well, my daughter being born, but that's obvious. That's
Right.
very obvious. Um, trying to check off. Yep, that's a musical memory. That's a musical memory. Um, yeah, there's so many music. I'm trying to dig one out. I'm trying to dig one out. Yeah. So, um, this is a while. This is the first one that comes. This is kind of an art one, but it's not music. So I was lucky enough to get. I don't know. I'm not sure how I worked into this situation, but the Cleveland Museum of Art several years ago uh, remodeled the place, and I don't know if you've been there, but it's like a world class now. I mean, the foyer's like this gigantic. Anyway, it's just incredible, and they have great artwork. But somehow I got in. I got picked. I don't know to film the experience. To film the experience of walking through. So they gave me a camera, and I walked through, and I had to narrate the whole thing.
Oh wow!
And it came with everything. It wasn't like pre-warned, so you're most of the places in there you're not allowed to film. So I was getting yelled at left and right, and I wasn't allowed to say, I don't know if I was allowed to say it or not. I'm doing it for the action. But I was still getting yelled at anyway. But so I went through and narrated, and then gave them a summation at the end, and the footage in the camera, and like a month later, I saw an ad for the place, grand reopening, blah blah, and pretty much every word in their commercial they took from my tape.
Yeah. Oh wow!
Yeah, or from the summation of what I thought the place was like. Right. So I was way excited, and I had just been, because of music, going to art museums and things like we talked about all over the world, and I was that excited about this place. I was telling them in an excited fashion how I thought this compared to everywhere. Like this was a world-class thing, and they use all that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty. That was kind of like plagiarism and complimentary, almost. But that was a great memory. Obviously my daughter being born. Yeah, those are both great memories.
Now, who is
that don't involve music?
That's really cool. Now, if you would say, like, who's the most interesting, craziest encounter you had, like, meeting somebody?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a famous person, right?
Right.
So I had this buddy Frankie when we lived in Las Vegas, and he actually, I think at one point in life he had his life put together, but his kids had grown and he moved to Vegas and just sort of was wandering around. Well, actually now that I think about it, Frankie could be the person that we're talking about, but oddly enough, we're not. But yeah, he used to be a roadie for Marky Ramone, and he was older than me. He ended up passing away of cancer again. But he was not like, he was nuts, but in the most fun way. And he made jewelry. This would be another fond memory. Is he just took a liking to me, and I would go over and he had these giant machines, and these, he would just make I still have all kinds of necklaces and rings from him that he would make. It looked like rust, and then he would turn it into, they were all silver, he worked with silver. And so he was pretty interesting. But the person, actually, when I was there once, and he was making me a necklace. He was making me, they're ruined symbol things. Anyway, great stuff. Better than any jewelry store I've ever been in. He made just right in the garage that he was renting in Las Vegas. But so he was making me this stuff, and he was staying with these people. He was renting their garage, and this girl comes out, and I think she was like, I don't know, I mean, well, she was in her 40s, but she was dressed really like in like kids' pajamas or something. I mean, just really odd, you know. I can't
Uh-huh.
explain it. And she was carrying a baby doll, you know,
Okay.
and she was wasted, so you could barely make out anything she said. But she was super um, passionate about whatever she was saying. And
Uh-huh.
I have written a poem about this lady too, because she knew I was into art, so she drug out this, and she was really scary. She was just I didn't, you know, you just didn't know, you know,
Hmm.
but she was interesting and scary. But she drug out this cardboard box, and it was loaded to the brim of, you know, cut up cardboard, kind of in the shape of, um, you know, canvases.
Hmm.
But she never bought paint. You know, she would use like whatever she could find, like glue and ketchup and macaroni and mayonnaise and buttons and
Uh-huh.
um, ripped up clothes and whatever material you can think of. That's not, you can't go to the store and buy. Whatever she had laying around became her paint. And she
Okay.
went through and she had hundreds of these paintings. And I know she was upset because her husband would just throw them in the he would take them out and throw them in the trash, and she did say she'd have to, and that's what my poem is about, something about garbage. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, because she would have to recover them all the time. But there were all these just good, but weird. I mean, weird where her brain was. And it was just fascinating. So the combination of her and Frankie together was just over the top, you know. But again,
Wow.
like I said before, that stuff was just like a like a almost a daily thing that I was completely comfortable with,
Oh,
you
wow.
know. Yeah. Yeah, I was you know, completely comfortable with that.
That is a little crazy encounter.
Yeah. So,
And so,
yeah.
David, we're gonna start wrapping up. Do you have um anything you would like to end with, or any closing thoughts?
No. Thank you for having me. Thanks everybody for listening and participating. And hope hopefully we got oh to everybody's questions or whatever. I had a good
Yep.
time talking about things that some of which I thought I'd never talk about, and it's wild because some things I'm remembering or I haven't talked about for a long time,
Right.
and or at all. So yeah, no, I just appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for listening and you know, going through pieces of my life.
Well, thank you for sharing pieces of your life and coming on here and sharing everything that you have. I really appreciate your time.
Awesome, anytime.
Yeah. And I hope you have fun with Rocky Horror Picture Show next week. And I hope
Yeah,
everybody else will join me as for my next guest, who is a very close personal friend of mine. I won't reveal his name, but I've known him for 9 years, and you'll be able to meet him next week.
9 years. We can't. What's it rhyme with?
Well, he is good friends with the two friends that you've met in my past, David.
Oh, okay, all right. So I know. I probably know. So,
Yep. Yep.
but we'll
So,
tune in and watch anyway. Even though I know, I think I know.
well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And thank you again, David. And we will end it here.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.